I wired the Mercedes to the black market pharmacy to trade it for 380s. No habeas corpus for us, we be fucked. Those who judge are just as corrupt. Do I use a broad brush? How the fuck they paint us? Criminals with no potential, rough stuff, lock 'em up. Slightly bent like Tiny Tim, say hi to him. Highest 10 mint, snorting porcelain off accordions.
Who's gonna carry the boats in the lawn?
No, go wake the neighbors, man. We can die with them.
What's up, guys? Alright, I'm back. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but honestly, it's been a busy couple of weeks, especially for me. So about whenever I posted my last video, which was that review over the Gorilla headphones, I was also getting ready for my 100-mile race. You guys have seen the vlogs leading up to it, and so I was getting ready for that, and I was also really busy. Unfortunately, I was losing my jobs and my career at that point in time as well, and also unfortunately losing where I was living, so I was needing to move out or find a new place to live, and just dealing with all of the emotions and everything that goes along with that as well. But that's a story for another time. As far as today, what I wanted to do was just do a quick recap of the race. So the race that I ran was the Pumpkin Holler 100. It took place out in Tahlequah. I had initially thought that it was going to be on a single track, and that there was going to be a lot of trails. It actually wasn't on trail at all. Most of it was on a gravel road, and even some of it was on pavement. That being said, though, I still had a lot of fun. It was my first 100-mile distance race, so I was pretty nervous going into it. We drove out on Friday afternoon, got there Friday evening. My friend Andrew drove, and our friends, his friends Ben and Dylan met us out there as well. And they eventually ended up helping crew during the race. And so we set up camp that night. I slept in a tent, slept on the ground, got some amazing sleep, woke up the next morning, and the gun went off at 8. So I made sure to go down and get my registration packet ready, got my bib on. My family had arrived at that point in time as well too, my mom and my dad. And of course, my friends Kira, Cheyenne, and their friend Tim, and we were all, just generally kind of friends. And then the race started. So I started, kind of in the middle of the pack as far as where we were all lined up. Quickly made my way to the front. I was racing a guy in a Red Coyote jersey for a while. Tried to keep up with him for about a mile and a half. And I looked down at my Garmin and realized, oh shoot, I'm running like way too fast. I was running at like probably 6:45 to 7:15 pace. So, granted, going 100 miles, you probably don't want to be going out that fast. So I decided to slow down a little bit, kind of hung back around the middle of the pack for a while, and then quickly started kind of gaining on people and overtaking people, and kind of kept about a 9:45 to 10:15 pace for that first loop, all the way to about mile 14.5. You had to turn off, and you hit an out and back section because it's a 30-mile loop course. So you run the 30 miles or the 30-mile loop 3 times during the 100-mile race. And then on the first loop, you're supposed to do a 10-mile out and back. So I missed that turn there. Went a half a mile down the wrong road, and luckily one of the race volunteers caught up with me and told me I was going in the wrong direction. So I backtracked about a half a mile and ultimately gave myself an extra mile in the distance, and unfortunately went from kind of maybe 3rd or 4th to dropping down to fifth place at that point in time. Anyways, I proceeded onwards, went and hit the out and back, stopped and got some waffles and some bacon. The aid stations were amazing, and continued running. And it was about that time that I kind of had my first low point. There was a lot of gain. The road was pretty steep, and it went on and on and on. And of course, the course was never flat. There weren't any, Colorado-style 14er climbs, but it was just a constant, up and down on the gravel roads. And so that was kind of the middle of the first loop, and I was just ready to be back on the main course. And unfortunately had my first low at that point, But about 1 or 2 miles into the rest of the first loop, I was feeling a little bit better. So continued on and just, pretty much held that nice, easy, comfortable pace for the rest of the first loop. So at mile 40, which was about where I could pick up my pacer, I completed the first loop and made it to the start-finish line. That's where I picked up my first pacer, who was my dad, and so we kind of ran, and then we would walk a little bit, and then we'd run a little bit and walk a little bit. And he carried me on for another 10 or 11 miles. And then we got to another aid station.
Looking good, Doug.
Questions for you. Who's gonna carry the boats and the logs? You don't know me. Dad's hip is locked up. I'm ready to go. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Where we met up with my next pacer, who would be a guy who I did not meet until he actually came to pace me. His name is Kyle. And so it was interesting running for 20 miles with him, but he's been running for 5 years, and he's really into it and has a huge passion for it. So it was a lot of fun getting to run with him pretty much the rest of that second loop. So by the end of the second loop...
Hell yeah! Woo!
Logs and the boat. Is he doing 100 or 100 miles?
100 mile.
Okay. God, that guy is like an energizer bunny. I was still feeling really good. I was still primarily running. I was walking occasionally, occasionally starting to walk some of the hills. The legs were feeling okay at that point. I'd had little like minor aches and pains throughout the day, and things that had bothered me. But unfortunately, I hadn't had anything that was, super crazy or anything that would cause me to want to DNF. At that point in time, I wasn't even having any GI issues. And so, continued onwards, finally finished the second loop and met up with my full crew. And at that point in time, I told Kyle on that second loop, I said, hey, I want to make sure that I get there in time to give myself 10 hours to finish the third loop. Worse, but not bad. We made it exactly when I wanted to, so I'm gonna...
Dude, you're ahead.
10 minutes.
You're ahead of schedule for sure.
Way ahead, yeah. Up until that point in time, I'd finished the first in like 8 hours, I think. The second loop, I finished in 7 hours, so I definitely knew I was going to be walking like most of the last of the third loop. So I wanted to give myself plenty of time, because one of my goals had been to finish sub 24, if not podium. And then ultimately, if that failed too, then I would just want to obviously finish the race. And then of course getting top 10 was also kind of a secondary goal as well. So anyways, set out on the third loop. I set out with, surprisingly, my ex-girlfriend, who's just my friend now, but still a really cool lady. Still really care about her a lot. And she paced me at the beginning of the third loop, and we had a pretty good time. And then I picked up my mom. She paced me for another 10 miles, and at that next aid station where I was supposed to get a pacer, so that would be about I would have about 10 to 12 miles left at that point. The crew had missed me. And so I was running behind on time, or so I thought in my head, and so I wanted to keep on pressing on. So I just, I had also, my left knee had started hurting really bad at that point, and I wasn't really able to run anymore. And so I had just wanted to press on, and I told my mom I just wanted to go by myself. I was angry at that point in time, and I was about to hit another really low. And so I set off on my own, and I got passed by a duo. And one of them was a guy that I'd been constantly battling throughout this 100-mile race. So all day long, we'd been yo-yoing positions back and forth. And he eventually would go on to take 7th. But I ran with them for 2 or 3 miles, and because they were kind of in the same position as me, where they could run just for a little bit, walk for a little bit, run for a little bit. So I hung out with them for as long as I could, and eventually they pushed on ahead of me, as I was just reduced to just basically limp walking. So for about the last 8 miles, I was walking in the dark alone. I was tired. I don't know if I was hallucinating. I think my mind more so was just starting to play tricks on me because I was like seeing cats like jumping up into trees. I was seeing people like ducking in and out of the trees looking at me. Ultimately getting a little bit spooked and creeped out. I was also getting a little bit emotional at that point in time. I remember being overcome with emotion at the thought of, this past year basically culminating to this. And, I'm not going to lie, I shed some tears at that point in time. But I just, I kept on pushing ahead. I just knew I needed to finish and I knew I needed to get off that course. And I really, really, really wanted to finish in under 24 hours. So that really motivated me to keep on going. I hit 2 more aid stations and they gave me a lot of encouragement as well. They were like, you're fine. You could walk at a 40-minute per mile pace and still make it sub 24 at this point, was the remarks from one of the aid station workers. But ultimately, I ended up limping, and my crew met me at the bridge, and they were allowed to run with me to the finish line. So that is definitely a moment that I will never forget. And then, of course, kissing the pumpkin will never be a moment that I will forget. And ultimately, the whole experience was amazing. My crew did an amazing job. Granted that nobody, including myself, even knew what we were doing or getting ourselves into going into the race. My pacers did an amazing job. My thanks go out to them. My thanks go out to Gorilla Audio. I did listen to their headphones for quite a while on that first loop when I was alone, and the open ear bone conduction mixed with a little bit of background music noise was just absolutely perfect. And so, I really couldn't have asked for more with this first race. I ended up taking 8th place overall with a finishing time of 1 hour or not 1 hour, but 22 hours and 34 minutes, I believe. And so, my average speed goal had been to maintain a 5 mile per hour average speed, and I think I came in at 4.8. And then my average pace goal that I wanted to have by the end was a 12-minute average pace, and I think I came within seconds of that as well. So ultimately, really happy with this first race. And then, of course, nutrition. I did not ever have like a gut bomb moment or a vomiting moment. I, never threw up. I went to the bathroom once in the first loop, but it's just because I really felt like I wanted to go, and it wasn't, anything rough or anything bad. It was pleasant and in a porta potty, and I had a wonderful experience with that. And so, a lot of you have asked me on Instagram, well, what did you do for nutrition? What did you do for food? Okay, so first and foremost, water. I drank a lot of water. Every 15 minutes, I would take a sip of water, and I would take a sip of my electrolyte mix. So what I chose to use for my electrolytes was Intraformance by First Form. You can find a link below for that. And basically, I just mixed that. I'd have a little squeeze bottle of that and then a larger bottle of water. And every 15 minutes, I'd take a sip from one and take a sip from the other one, whether I was thirsty or not. We had pretty mild weather that day, so I wasn't sweating a whole lot, although I did notice towards the end of the race I was having a lot of problems regulating my temperature. Outside of that, every, hour or so, 45 minutes, maybe every even 30 minutes, pretty much anytime I would think about it, I would eat a gel or I would eat like Cliff Energy Blocks. I had an assortment of all different ones, things that people had donated to me, Crank Esports gels. I mean, I had all sorts of different gels. It was kind of just do what you have to, get what you have to kind of a thing. And so I did that. And then, of course, I just ate pretty much everything at the aid stations. And they had everything from paninis to quesadillas to peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to smoked chicken. I had 3 shots of alcohol. I had 2 cigarettes in the course of this 100-mile race. So, I mean, I consumed a lot of different things. And it was kind of me just, just taking what I could get to make me feel better at any given moment. And I know that that's kind of disappointing for some of you that thought maybe, He's going to have some immaculate plan laid out, but the whole thing was kind of flying by the seat of my pants and just pretty inexperienced, and ultimately just happy that I made it through. But yeah, oh, I also had a couple of beers during the race as well. So that's basically what I consumed. I mean, you could probably say anywhere between 100 and 300 calories per hour during the race. I never really had an issue getting anything down. I only had about a 30-minute period where my stomach was a little bit upset. But, you know, outside of that, no real issues with the stomach. But anyways, yeah, nutrition was not really a big issue. Neither was the GI issues. Ultimately, this was a great experience, and I was telling the crew at the end of it, I'm really surprised that I even made it to the race, to be honest with you guys. There was so much crazy stuff going on in my life, and it's still not over. It's still not resolved yet. You know, my career as a paramedic is over, but there's been a couple of new doors that have opened for me. I'm going to be working at a running shoe store that is in Oklahoma City, and I'm also working at a dispensary right now. I am a medical marijuana patient, by the way. I've got my licensing and everything. That is a legal disclaimer, etc., etc. But I'm going to be working with a local Oklahoma City dispensary as well. So the future of this vlog, you guys can, of course, expect to see a lot of running. We'll start getting into some training tips. We'll get into kind of the strategy behind my training. This training block I will consider 100% successful, and over the next couple of weeks I'm going to be diving into that and analyzing like why it was successful, what went well with it, and maybe what you guys could learn from it, and maybe some tips, techniques, and some tricks that we could all learn together to help us be more successful long distance runners. And then you can also, because of the running shoe store, I apparently think that I'm going to be getting a pretty good discount on shoes, so hopefully I'll be able to pick up a decent amount of shoes, all different kinds, and I'll start reviewing them and giving you guys my thoughts on them as I get them in, as well as tons of other running gear. And of course you'll be coming along with me on group runs that I go on with these with the different groups that belong to the store, or that are affiliated with the store, I guess I should say. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and of course I would love to hear you guys' ideas on what you would like to see or what you would like to know about. Please post those below. And other than that, guys, that's it for this episode, and we'll look to getting back towards the usual programming, maybe a little bit on down the road later on this week. You know, as I said, I am working 2 jobs now, so I'll be pretty busy, but we're still going to have a lot of fun. And really, I mean, the way that I see it is that the adventure really just kind of starts now. Like, this is like me hitting the reset button on life. I don't really know where it's going to go, but, you know, I'm going to take a gamble, and I'm just going to go for, you know, what I feel makes me happy and what I feel like I should do. And I think as long as I stay true to that in some way, some form or fashion, just like my race, as long as I keep on going, it'll all work out in the end. Anyways, guys, I appreciate it if you've made it this far to the end of the video. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll catch you guys a little bit later.
How you feeling, Ken?
A little bit.